Okay, want to make this video today, and I'm just going to put emphasis on quickly going over these data logs. I've talked to a few people, and they're like, man, I don't know how to read data logs, and none of that stuff makes sense to me. They just submit data logs to their tuners, and they don't dive into the information. So I made the video yesterday that shows the difference between the factory fuel pump and the my Infiniti Q50, Q50S Signature Edition 3.0T rear-wheel drive, 2019 model. So I want to just quickly elaborate and go over these data logs real quick, and it'll make a lot more sense. I was sleeping on this, and I was like, man, I didn't really go into the detail that I needed to go into to kind of show the emphasis of why, the whole importance of this video. So I'm going to do that today, and hopefully someone will find this informative and maybe get something out of it. Okay, so I'm just going to dive into it so I don't ramble too much. I've got my data log on the left that has the factory fuel pump. It's labeled right here if you can see my mouse. And on the right, I've got AMS fuel pump. So these are similar data logs, ran at night in the same area, and temperature-wise, pretty close, not exactly. But I want to go over, and I want to just elaborate in saying that the factory fuel pump on the left, that data log, that's happened to me quite a bit. I mean, this is not just one-off random. I don't race my car around and beat on it, weekly and do this excessively. I mean, these may be, done every 3 months or something. It just depends on the weather and my motivation and, how amped up I am to go rag on the car. So I just want to explain, but I've got many examples, but I'm just focusing on the one recent one from the factory fuel pump where you will see these negative aspects that I'm going to go over that were really hindering my car in my opinion. And then I'm going to look at just a few days ago, the AMS fuel pump. Okay, so let's look at this real quick. I'm going to show you how wacky the factory fuel pump was with me being tuned 93, approximately 440 to maybe 450 rear wheel horsepower. So that's what my car is running, a 93 tune. And so we're going to look at it, okay? Now follow my mouse. So here's the factory fuel pump. And so this white line right here on both of these data logs shows my throttle input. Very important. Because that shows you if you've got your foot to the floor, if you have your foot 50% to the floor, it just shows you where you are in that position of your throttle. There's also accelerator pedal sensor that measures the voltage, but I just like to go with the accelerator pedal percentage load. So that shows me when I got on the throttle, when I was off the throttle, when I got onto it. And so this is all launch control right here, because this pink line is my mile per hour. So this is 0 mile per hour, and then that is still 0, and then it increases from 1, 2, 3, and goes all the way up to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 miles per hour. So the pink line on both of these data logs is my vehicle speed, the mile per hour. And so also I've got my, on both of these data logs, I got my fuel trims. I got my long term and I got my short term. And I don't know how important those are because the car on both of these data logs, or any data log, the ECU, ECM is taking control and adjusting these every nanomillisecond to make them fit the car precisely, so the car is running correctly, so you're not running too rich or too lean. So these are constantly changing, and the car is manipulating those. So that's why they're bouncing up and down, and they're going crazy like a rat's heartbeat across as the car is trying to keep that within a range. I think it's a little important because it shows on the AMS fuel pump log that the short term is a little more responsive than on the factory fuel pump, where if they are slightly lower on the factory fuel pump and slightly higher and more in the 90s, mid 90s, where the factory fuel pump's more on the low 90s, even down low as 88 or 89 percent. I think that's a percent. Okay, so then another important key aspect is the vehicle's RPMs, and this is this gray line right here, gray line, and it's the same thing that's over here, gray line. So both of these I'm using launch control, so you can look and see that as I am at 100% throttle before the car is moving. So I'm standing there with the brakes on for a second or two, and when I release the brake, then the RPMs start to climb. So as I'm at 0 and RPMs are right here, I'm standing with my foot on the brake and the floor to the throttle. So and that's actually back here, because it jumps from 0% all the way up to 100%. So I'm standing on the throttle in both of these data logs until I release the brake, and that's right here at this point, right here at this point. So that's when I release the brake. So here are the key things I want you to take away from this, and I'm going to try to make this quick and simple. Okay, before I got the AMS fuel pump, the ECM, the ECU, I think the Japanese cars manufacturers relate to them as the ECM from my research, and the ECU is more the American cars, or the PCM, TCM. It gets a little bit more complicated in that area. One's the transmission and one's more the car computer controlling, the boost and AFR and things like that. But as you can see right here, even though I'm standing and I'm on the map to the factory fuel pump on the left, and here's my cursor, as you can see, is I've got my foot mashed to the floor, and I am now taking off. I'm climbing up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mile per hour, and the car's ECU is seeing something, and I've determined that it's seeing something that it doesn't like, and it is reducing, it's trying to take control, and even though my foot is to the floor during this time, the ECU is overriding my foot, and it's pulling the throttle. It's pulling the throttle, and it was down to, I think, 0.017, and this one was down to 0.06. So almost a complete throttle shutdown by the ECM making that decision. But first of all, we have a little bit dipped, and it catches back up, and it goes, oh, no, we don't have it fixed. It goes all the way back down, and then it climbs back up, and then it starts going, I don't think I got it fixed. I don't got it corrected, and then it goes back up. And this whole section right here is a cluster F, if I can say it politely that way. And you will see right here as my mile per hour goes, see how wavy this is? And it starts to climb, and then it starts to level off. That's because of this garbage right here. And then it shifts. This is a shift point from first gear to second gear, and then to third gear shift right here. So all this is happening during a shift period. And then to double that, you've got the computer's flipping out, and then it gets back on the RPMs. It stalls out on the RPMs after it shifted, and then drops it again, and then starts picking it back up. This right here is just a mess. And it's not just on this one data log. I probably can dig up 15 data logs as messy as this data log on me on a full throttle run. So I just want to express what's going on here, and you will also see that the RPMs are lower. My car was shifting, I think, at 5,500 RPMs, and red line is 67 or 65. I can't remember just right off the top of my head. So it's shifting way early. I definitely had more room to carry the RPMs so that I could carry higher into second gear. So that's a problem right here. The fuel throttle cut is a massive problem. And then the RPMs not going up as high is a major problem. And you can see this determined in my RPMs right here as it does this crazy dip. And then you will also see my mile per hour. Now, believe it or not, this was like 35 miles per hour at this section right here. So it stalls out at 35 miles per hour for a few milliseconds. And then while I'm 100% throttle now, 100 back up to 100% throttle, my car drops 5 miles, it loses 5 miles per hour from right here to right there. So that is unheard of. How can you go fast from 0 to 60 and with your foot to the floor and lose 5 miles per hour and still crank out probably a 4.01 or a 4.06? That's usually the times when my car's not running super precisely that it will get a, between a 4 and a 4.10 to 60, even with this just nasty goofball looking data log. Okay, so enough about this. I showed you all the things wrong with the factory fuel pump data log. Now we're going to look over here, move over to the right to the AMS fuel pump data log. Now just look at this information right here. Here I am, Ecutech launch control, 100% throttle jumps up. I'm still sitting here at 0 miles per hour. The RPMs raise up to, I think I'm approximately about 2,400, 2,500 stall right there where it just hums it before I release the brake. And so look how smooth this, basically this arc up to 60 miles or 70 miles per hour is compared to this mess. You've got this high and low and your dip and your loss of throttle. So with the new fuel pump, it is 100% clear that the car is a lot more happy, as you can see right here by this ramp up of the mile per hour. Plus two, I did have a little dip right here in my throttle, and I think because I had so much wheel spin, and I also on this run exhibited, because I stayed in the throttle, even though the wheels are spinning, I'm hammering it. And even though I'm hammering it, I did get a little bit of wheel hop. I got one good wheel hop bounce out of the rear end on this, and I was like, man, I need to step out of it just a little bit and then try to recover because of that wheel hop. You don't want to get a lot of wheel hop on your car because it's just detrimental to the drivetrain. So I think that was my fault or my intentions of me releasing my foot just a little bit, but that was down to like 0.95%. So even with that little bit of, that's not much of out of throttle. But as you'll see, as my RPMs climb up right here compared to the map or the data log on the left, I ramped, my car ran up to, I think, 5,700 RPMs, 5,775 RPMs and versus 5,500 RPMs. So as you'll see, all my RPMs per gear went up higher and the car revved out better. And then I would have hit 60 miles an hour quicker because my car is revving out. And it's just running better. So as you'll see, now that's a huge, big difference. If you look at these and you know what you're looking at and the before and the after data logs, I think that's just key. And if you want to pause this video and just study that real quick, and if you look in or you can zoom into your screen, you'll see the parameters that are selected: short-term fuel trim, long-term fuel trim, and that's just picking one to not make the screen too complicated, because you got a left and on the right side of your turbos, and all your system is on the left and the right. So you have two dual systems running. But yeah, so here you go. You can just see what a big deal the AMS fuel pump. Excuse me, I usually get some spittle right there on my lip. I need to make sure I'm not talking and looking like a jackass with that on my mouth, so I constantly have to wipe my mouth. But you'll see that the benefits of the AMS fuel pump on the right here. And if you have any questions, shoot me a message and let's chat. I have actually a lot of people on instant message on Facebook that I chat with that are Q50, Q60 people. And we have good conversations, and I've met some nice made some friendships with people, and have similar interests as we have this car and we're into performance. So other than that, thanks for checking out this video. Hopefully it's helpful, enjoyable, and you got something out of it. All right, bye-bye.